This story is about a middle-aged man named Michael who finds a magic remote and his life changes forever. One day, Michael, the father of the family, is asleep and his children comes into his room and ask him to turn on the TV for them. There are a lot of remotes and whichever he tries, it's either for the fan or the garage door, but none of them work for the TV. Finally, he gives up and goes to work. We see that he goes to his work and it is a really successful company and a lot of hot girls are waving for him. And when he's going to work, every assistant is super hot and sexy except for his assistant who is ugly and clumsy. There is a meeting with Arabs and it has already begun and an Arab prince has come to design his hotel. After a few racial inappropriate jokes, when Michael shows the prince his luxury design, the prince refuses and instead offers the blueprint that he has. When Michael sees his blueprint, says that it's really old-fashioned and outdated and won't do an old job like this. So they get into sort of a fight, but their argument ends soon. In the meeting, Michael tells his boss that there is also a Japanese hotel design that they have to deliver by the end of the night, and Michael realizes that he will miss his son's swimming competition. And as he predicted, he does miss the match, and when he goes to swimming pool to congratulate his son saying that you did great, another kid comes up and starts to cry and says, "You mean my real dad is not my dad?" At night, there's a family gathering and Michael is as usual on his phone while his family is sitting around the table. When they get back home, he tells his wife that he has to go to a work trip and should postpone their family vacation, and that's when he gets into a huge argument with his wife. He has to spend the night on the couch, and when he wants to turn on the TV, it's the wrong remote again, and the toy helicopter hits him in the head. He gets mad and the next morning, he goes to buy an all-in-one remote and he meets an old scientist guy who tells him that he has the best remote for him. He gets the remote and when he wants to pay, the old scientist says it's for free. But there are two conditions. One is that he can't return it, and two, he has to be careful not to overuse it. Late at night, when he returns home, his wife starts talking to him about him not spending enough time with the family, and when he wants to talk to her, Michael pauses the TV with his remote, and his wife gets paused as well, and freezes. Michael keeps talking, and when he's done, he hits the pause button again, and his wife leaves. He starts to work in the basement, and his dog comes to him and keeps barking. He uses the remote on him and finds out that he can decrease the volume. Even when his dog wants to take a piss, he can make the time go faster with the remote, and the dog pees really, really fast. The next morning, his wife's annoying friend is telling a story about her sex with her ex-husbands, and Michael says, "All of them left you because you complain all the time." When she wants to say something in return, Michael mutes her, and yet she keeps on talking on mute. In the afternoon, he goes to the store where he bought the remote and wants to know more about it. The old scientist is there and answers to his questions and says that he can control a lot of things about his and other people's lives. It turns out that he can also travel into the past and the future. For example, in one flashback we see that Michael's assistant spits on his food, or even another moment where Michael was born and he had such a small penis that everyone thought he was a girl. The next day, Michael goes to work and as usual sees his boss flirting with hot girls and as usual leaves all the work to Michael. If Michael gets one more promotion, he will be in the same level as his boss and he becomes a partner. Michael returns home and remembers that there's a party at their place and uses the remote and fast forwards everything. At the end, when his parents want to leave, he tells them that his penis is way bigger than what it was, and they thank God that it didn't shrink. After the party, he wants to have sex with his wife, but she says she needs to be in the mood and wants a massage. And Michael even fast forwards the massage and the sex. He has other questions about the remote, so he calls the scientist guy in the middle of the night, saying that he can't remember what he promised his wife at the dinner table, and the old guy says that's why he should not fast forward all the things because he will lose track of what he said. Days pass and Michael fast forwards every moment that he doesn't want to live, but he watches this girl running in a slow motion. When he has a meeting with the Japanese for their hotel design, there are some Japanese engineers there as well, and they ask to talk in private. But Michael uses the remote to increase the volume of their conversation and hear what they say, and even translate it in English. When he returns, he knows exactly what to say, so they give him the project. As soon as he arrives at the office the next day, he talks to his boss about the big step, but his boss refuses to give him the promotion and even gives him another task. When Michael wants to leave the room, he pauses everything because he is so mad. So he slaps his boss a few times in the face and even farts in his mouth and then leaves. He returns home, tired of his life, decides to make big changes to get the promotion. He fast forwards his whole life to the moment where he got the promotion. He attends a meeting and sees that many things have changed, and when he asks his friend about the date and the year, it has been only 1 year. 1 year that he doesn't remember anything of. As it turns out, his relationship with his wife is in the mud and they go to therapy. The moment his wife starts to nag, the remote skips forward, so this scene is deleted and Michael ends up sitting at the dinner table. And even their dog died in this year. His wife wants to calm him down and they kiss. And when they are about to have sex, the remote fast forwards again and his wife is obviously not satisfied. He calls the old scientist again and wants to return the remote, but he says that he can't do it, and even if he throws the control away, it will reappear in his hands. He is stuck with this remote. The next day, he goes to work in his pajamas because he doesn't want the remote to skip anything else. When his boss tells him why is he there with that luck, he says that if people feel at home when they are at work, their performance will increase. His boss likes this idea, and while talking about giving him another promotion, the remote skips forward to 10 years later. Michael is the boss now, but there's a problem because he weighs like 500 pounds. He is super rich and has a great car. He goes home and sees a fat boy on the couch and realizes that it's Ben, his son. He starts to argue with his son, and his daughter Samantha comes in and says that she wants to go to a trip with her boyfriend. He also sees his wife kissing another man and starts to fight, but realizes that they divorced somewhere in the last 10 years. His wife yells at him, and as soon as she starts, the remote stops everything. In the next scene, Michael wakes up in a hospital and is no longer fat. The remote fast forwarded the time again to a few years later, and he had a heart attack and even had cancer, and now he lost all his weight out of sickness. His wife is there and tells him to leave her and her husband alone, and she leaves. He goes to work and sees that his son is all grown up and lost a lot of weight, and plus he is running the company, which is a lot bigger now. Ben says that he has some bad news for him and says that Michael's dad, his grandfather, is dead. He goes to the funeral and there he sees that old scientist guy and says why can't he remember and go to the moment where his father died, and the old man says that because he wasn't there and it's not a part of his memories. So he tells the remote to take him to a memory where he is happy, and it fast forwards to a few years later at Ben's wedding. He sees his mom and his aunt there who got old, but in this place he feels happy. He sees his wife dancing and regrets that he lost her. Thinking about all of this, he has a heart attack and falls and wakes up in the hospital. His children are there waiting for days for him to wake up. They say goodbye and leave for the car where their mother is waiting for them. Michael can't talk yet, but he gets up and follows his children in the rain, and he falls a few feet away from the car, and his family sees him. They approach him and he tells his wife that he still loves her, and he asks for forgiveness and then dies. In the next scene, Michael is young again, and it's moments before he buys the remote. He is super happy and goes to his parents and wakes them up and kisses them, then return to his own house and do the same thing. And his wife gets mad, but he tells her that he wants to reschedule all the plans that he cancelled. He hugs his children and tells his daughter that one day she will be the hottest girl ever. The end.